I think people don't necessarily think about phoning a financial advisor, because I think in the past there is a reputation that you're a salesman. Someone's going to try and sell you something. It's insurance, it's a pension, it's, oh my God, I can't talk to them because they might try and sell me something.
I think you're right.
Well, yes, kind of, but you need advice.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, that involves us either providing a product that gives you a solution to something, or getting you to buy something which provides that. In good times and bad, people still need financial planning.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Chat. I am Nicole, your host for this episode, as usual, and I'm really delighted to be exploring more in the world of investments and finance. At the moment, really wanted to focus on this area for the next couple of episodes at least, and really wanted to talk to this person in particular because I had a chat with him about some of my own financial queries, and he just immediately made everything sound incredibly simple, incredibly straightforward, but also really seemed to really care about what people need and what they're after and how very different that can be. So I'm delighted to introduce you someone I'm surprised I haven't come across before, but he's in Tunbridge Wells and he is Matthew of Forbes Financial.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. It's very nice to meet you. I feel like I know you already because we've had a few conversations, haven't we? And a Zoom.
Don't forget Zoom these days.
If you have a Zoom, that's it. You're like best buddies now, aren't you? That's it. It's like we've gone through the Zoom. But for those that don't know you, obviously there was a little bit of an intro there, but could you tell people a little bit about who you are and the company itself, please?
Yeah, so I'm director of Forbes Financial. We are a financial advisor based in Tunbridge Wells. There's myself as the principal advisor, and then we've got a couple of other advisors in the practice that help service and look after our client base. I've been doing this for 25 years now, so been around the block a few times on a number of things, but we tend to look after high net worth individuals, but a lot of those can be families, businesses, and kind of everything in between, really, because the world of financial advice is a narrow one to a certain degree. I mean, you come across all sorts of different people, and if someone picks up the phone and wants our help, we can either help or not, depending on the situation. If we can't, normally we know somebody that can. Yeah. So
how did you get into that 25 years ago then? Is it something you did at college or?
I did business studies at college.
Yeah.
Came out of uni, didn't know what I wanted to do, but my dad was a financial advisor.
Okay.
So
in the blood.
He gave us the motivational speech, which went something like this. Here's a job. If you don't like it, go away. I won't exactly tell you what
really?
He said, but that was the motivational speech that got me involved in financial services. But he ran a very successful business. We looked after the banking community for a long period of time, back in the day when you had a job for life in banking, but that doesn't exist anymore.
No.
People move around, and in fact in many jobs people move around, and where there are moves and changes, you need advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time someone moves a company, they get a new pension, they get a new set of benefits, different rules associated with all those things, and half the time, people move, they sign the forms, and then it gets filed in the box with the rest of it and never sees the light of day again until they move again.
That sounds very familiar. That sounds but I mean, that is the thing, isn't it? It's I was talking to someone the other day and just saying, and I think I said this to you as well, we had the conversation that, as you get later on, there's very few, I think, smart people, there are a lot of them, but they think about this from the start. And I suppose it depends on whether your family is involved in finance or anything like that. But for me, I've only really just started to think about it later on in life, which is quite frustrating in some ways.
Financial advice does come to, I think people don't necessarily think about phoning a financial advisor, because I think in the past, there is a reputation that you're a salesman. Someone's going to try and sell you something. It's insurance, it's a pension, it's, oh my God, I can't talk to them because they might try and sell me something.
I think you're right.
Well, yes, kind of, but you need advice.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, that involves us either providing a product that gives you a solution to something, or getting you to buy something which provides that. So, but I don't sort of class what we do as selling because clients will come to us with problems, or they'll either say, well, so-and-so gave me your name, I've given you a call, but I'm not really sure how you can help me. And then once I sit down and talk to them, we find big gaping holes, and suddenly it opens people up, because essentially what we're trying to do is find out what is important to people, what makes them tick, and what they're trying to achieve now and in the future. And all we do is drill a little bit deeper down into that by asking lots of questions. Yeah. And then align the planning and the recommendations that we give to what they say is important to them. Because if something is important to you, you want to do it.
Absolutely.
And stick to that plan. And the way we help people stick to that plan is we go and see them every year, or twice a year, or 3 times a year. However many times we think that client warrants either an accountability session, as they call it, kick up the backside. Yeah. Or just we're on track, or actually we're not on track, and these are the reasons why. And there's either a reason for it, or it's just come to pass. They might have lost their job, or got a pay rise, a pay decrease. Well, then we have to realign planning, because they might not be able to afford that thing or that pension contribution. But if you've got no one to hold you accountable or talk to, how are you ever going to move forward?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. I think there's also, for me, I agree with you about not the insurance thing so much. I mean, I agree with that. But for me, I always thought, financial advisor, I don't have enough money for a financial advisor. But you certainly, as you get older, you accumulate assets anyway, just through property, just through time in itself. You would have some assets. But also, I think it's recognising that you don't have to be a multi-billionaire to need a financial advisor.
Not at all. If you think about, the analogy of climbing a mountain, you've got a goal, you need to get to the top. Now, you can do the easy way, which is kind of circumnavigate the mountain and go round in circles and slowly get to the top and not break a sweat and have sandwiches on top. Or you can go straight up the middle, which is going to be, very painful indeed. You might fall and stumble every now and again, and the whole experience will be pretty grotty once you got to the top. And with financial advice, it doesn't have to be like that. With any planning, it doesn't have to be like that. If you allow the time is the best thing that you have. The older you are, the more difficult it is, because it takes time to accumulate, and no one knows how much time they've got. Yeah. So, we ensure that we kind of offer the full range of services to clients. So, in that last analogy, no one knows how much time they've got. We make sure our clients are well insured. Yeah. Because if you don't have life insurance in place, you may have the best laid plans going, but if suddenly you fall off the edge of a cliff in middle of that planning schedule, and you've got you wouldn't have hit your goal, or you wouldn't have looked after your family. I think
that is one thing I do have, is life insurance. And I have a few other insurances, but certainly that was something I got from a very early age, because my husband and I had 2 properties, and immediately, and we had children, and I was like, right, if anything happens to either of us, and quite often he'd say, this is a lot of money we're paying for this, why are we doing this? And I was like, because if something happens to either of us, it was very important to me that he and the children were looked after, and vice versa. And I think it is safeguarding those things, isn't it?
It's safeguarding what's important to you. It goes back to the question, what is important to you, and why is it important, and what do you attribute value to? Yes. Because if you attribute value to your family, then you need to look after them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Insurance, it's pretty boring to talk about. It's not exactly exciting, but it's a foundation part of financial planning. Yeah. And there are different ways to structure it. You can buy insurance through your business if you're a small business owner, and the premiums are tax deductible, but the benefit is personal.
I didn't know that.
There you go. You might have insurance, but is it structured correctly?
Well, and we're going to have this conversation anyway. So we're going to, not today, on it, like live now.
We're going to have a big chat later on.
We'll have a big chat about my little portfolio. But that is very true. Yeah, and that was one of the things as well, actually, that we talked about when I chatted with you on Zoom, was that kind of partnership that you said to me, it's important that you have an advisor like yourself, but also you've got those other pillars in place.
Well, you know, most people will have an accountant, most people will have a solicitor, and to be fair, these days most people will have had contact with or have regular contact with a financial advisor, but very few times are all the dots joined together. Yeah. So, excuse me. With some of my clients, I always encourage that we, if you've got an accountant solicitor, well, I need to be in on that conversation, especially towards important times like business year ends, when companies are figuring out how much profit they have. Do we need to get rid of some? They're sitting down with their accountant, maybe their solicitor, but probably it's with the accountant initially, and they're making decisions about their business. Well, the accountant will know a bit. And some of them know a lot, some of them don't know so much. But they can't give you advice. The financial advisor needs to be in on that conversation. So to join those, as you call them, pillars together is important. It's the perfect triangle of advice. You've got your lawyer, accountant, and your financial advisor.
And I mean, 25 years is an impressive amount of time to have been in any business. You must have seen so many different things over the last 25 years. I've seen literally.
I've seen a fair bit, and because of our clientele being in finance, banking, that professional background, I'm fortunate, unfortunate because of the circumstances, but I've seen a lot of stuff. And there's not really many scenarios that I haven't come across where, seen that before, and we know what to do, or we know who to go to. Quite a lot of the time, some of our clients need quite sophisticated planning. And so because over 25 years I've met a lot of people, I've kind of surrounded myself with the right people to speak to about the right sorts of things. So, whether it's tax guidance or offshore structuring or whatever it happens to be, if there's a certain thing a client needs, there's not many times we come across where we can't put something together or bring that skill set in to make sure that we're giving the right advice and putting the right structures in place for that client.
It must be very interesting, actually, because you're like you say, you're working with lots of different elements, aren't you? And lots of different people and lots of different solutions and problems. So that in itself must be fascinating.
It is interesting. I mean, our client base is built up of 450 clients, but drill that down, that's 270 households. But we deal with quite a lot of children now because our clients are getting older, they've had children, they've now got jobs, they want a bit of help and guidance, and we want the good messages and the good planning that we've put in place to continue. One of the biggest annoyances that I find is I get introduced to people maybe when something's happened. So somebody's unfortunately died maybe, and there are children involved, and mum and dad might have had good advice in the background, and then the children come along and go, actually, we want the money because we want to buy a house, or I want to buy that car. I think the statistic is after someone dies, I think it's 28 days till someone buys a car.
Really?
Yeah. Something ridiculous.
God.
Once they get the money.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Go and buy a car, but just take the money out of the estate in the right way. Get the advice guidance. Look at what if you're in touch with a financial advisor that has put together the planning for the parents, don't go somewhere else.
No.
Or fine to get a second opinion, but there's quite often some really good planning that has been put in place for a reason, and it's not necessarily transparent in all the paperwork. You need to speak to the advisor because he or she knows what they have done to input that planning for that family.
And do you find now that, that's interesting when you say about families, do you find now that families are more inclusive of sort of their plans with their children and situations like that? Because certainly, 20, 30 years ago, everything's changed. I mean, the way that we communicate with our children and our parents is different, and that generational thing has changed a little bit because do you feel like there's more communication there between families?
I think it differs. Life certainly is different, and back in the day, it would be husband goes out to work,
Yeah.
woman stays at home.
Just no one talk.
No one talk to each other. Husband makes all the decisions. He has all the money. And when they come to retirement, I've got a good collection of clients, in that bracket where husband's got £1 million in the pension, wife has got nothing. And when the husband takes his pension, he's now going to become a high rate taxpayer.
Goodness me.
Now, if I had it my way, luckily with some of the younger clients that I'm speaking to, and especially the women, I'm like, right, you've got a fantastic opportunity. You need to do some planning. Let's not forget your wife. And sometimes people look at what? Rather build two equal pots in size, where you maybe are both lower rate taxpayers when you come to draw that pension, rather than build one big pot and then you're forced to become a higher rate taxpayer.
Absolutely.
That's not sensible, is it?
No.
So women, I think, have had a hard deal and been left out of the equation for far too long. Children are most definitely coming into the equation because we've got grandparents that still quite wealthy and are getting to a stage where they're gifting money away.
Yes.
Now, making regular gifts out of excess income is an immediate deduction from your estate for estate planning purposes, which is fantastic for grandparents, maybe setting up savings plans or little trusts for their grandchildren.
Yeah. So
there's lots of planning that we do around children, and then the children become the clients and they want to add to their pots that grandma and grandpa are doing for them, and so it just goes on. And I think the conversations that some parents and grandparents are having with their children or grandchildren are definitely more transparent than they've ever been.
Yeah.
Because I worry for the future. I worry for the generations, the children of this world. They don't have the pension schemes that our parents had. They are going to have to fund themselves. And where is the money coming from? I've only got to look at, one of my clients, they're, earning £50,000 a year, but they live in London. There's not much change left at the end of the month for planning.
No.
It sounds a lot of money. But once you've got the London lifestyle and a few handbags and watches and everything that people covet these days, there's not a lot of money left. And my job is to slowly open people's eyes and try and make them see, look, yes, we have to live for today, absolutely, but there is a tomorrow, and is a long tomorrow, because we're all living longer.
Yes. Exactly, and it's that earning potential. I mean, of course, people can work for a long, long time if they want to, but also you're earning the time that you can earn money becomes small. I remember my father always saying to me, you'll get to a point where you'll see that you're running out of time, that you have the opportunity to make the sort of money you'd like to create the sort of lifestyle you want. It just time again, isn't it? Times
it shrinks and it goes quickly, and whilst retirement for most is got a lady who I was referred to a few weeks ago, very sadly lost her husband. He went to the bus stop to go to, ironically, to go to the doctors. Never saw him again. Had a heart attack.
Oh.
And she turned around to me and said, "I said, how can I help you?" And she said, "Well, I'm not in a very good position."
Yeah.
She said there was no plan. I had no plan. We had no plan. There is no planning. What do I do? Now, actually, she was in shock. But actually, once we start to unpeel the layers of the onion, there's hope for her. We can put in place some good plans that will help her in her future, and align the planning to what's important to her, and she'll be fine.
But
good. She had no one to talk to, and there was no planning. And I hear it time and time again. It just screams at you. If there's no plan, what are you going to do? And
is it that kind of, when you mention that sort of live for today, is it that's the sort of person that doesn't do the planning so much?
They're very difficult.
Yeah.
I part of this job is fascinating because you meet all sorts of different characters.
Yeah.
And the live for todays and don't care about tomorrows are I like them because they're a challenge. Always like a good challenge.
Yeah.
But you've got to try and demonstrate that. It's all about finding a balance. I think if you try and force someone to do everything that you want them to do that you know is good for them, it's never going to work for that individual. You have to work with the characters. You have to work with what is important to them, but also help them see the future and what's coming down the line.
Yeah.
And some people will get on board with that, and some people won't. I can't help everybody. But it's difficult, and there are, society to a certain extent hasn't helped. The younger generation do want to spend their money.
Do you think they do more? Because I certainly have met a few young people that I'm just incredibly impressed how much money they've saved. I mean, I suppose it's
the big thing is house purchase. They are all starting to realise that actually no one's going to do this for me. I do need to put money away and save for a deposit. Some people are lucky because mum and dad, grandparents help out. Yeah, but they've still got to get a mortgage. Yeah. Still got to go on that ladder, and that's when having a good mortgage advisor is imperative, because you can go down the high street and walk into one of the big branded banks and you'll sit in front of the computer and they'll take your details. Invariably it will come up, computer says no. Yeah, absolutely. You need a broker to unpick some of that and say, actually, I can squeeze more out of this than they can. Yeah. Because all the banks do is just feed the numbers and the machine comes out with the answer. And you need human contact and knowledge to get bigger mortgages. And so with those, like that, do you think that's why some of the younger population have saved a bit more money for the deposits? I think a lot of kids are still living at home. I mean, I left literally, I left home as soon as I could. So did I, 17. 18, straight out the door, uni, came back for a bit, and then I was gone again, and bought my first house at 24. So I was eager to get on the bandwagon, but it was easier for me and easier for us, because they were the days when you could say, I'm earning more than I actually am, and someone would give you a mortgage. And we've talked exactly about that with a guest, exactly that, like those, you didn't have to have any proof of what you were. Those were the days. I know, goodness me, weren't they just? It's not like that now. It's not, for probably the right reasons. Absolutely. Goodness me, can you imagine if it would be like that now? Well, yeah, and this is, credit crisis, all off the back of that, to a certain degree. Yeah. But I think, kids are learning that they need to fund themselves. They are making right decisions. I think online, this is the online generation. Yeah. So, if our competition is anything, it's I've done that online. Right, okay. Well, but is it done right? And quite often I'll bump into these people a couple of years down the line. It's just like, that didn't work out quite as well as I'd hoped, and then they come back because they know they need the advice. And I mean, also, do you think that children are being better educated about their finances? Because certainly my son, for example, who's 12, I thought he actually came into the kitchen one evening a little while ago and he said, Mum, I'd like to understand your finances, which, bless him. He's also told me he's going to live at home till he's 22 and exactly how much money he's got to earn to save a deposit for a house. And I said, are you going to be paying me any rent till you're 22? And he's like, no, Mum, I'm not paying you any rent. Yeah, exactly. That all sort of accumulated into his cost. But what was interesting was that they talked about loans and debt at his school, his particular school in Tunbridge Wells. And I was really fascinated by that. And I sort of said to a few friends, I don't feel like I had enough, certainly my generation, I don't feel like maybe I wasn't in that class, possibly I was living for the moment, but I don't think any of that was talked about. I certainly didn't get that education. Funnily enough, one of the things that we've started to offer is education for schools. So we have a programme where we can, go into, early years secondary school and later year primary school to a certain degree and just talk very basically about finance and what it means. I think it's so important. I think it's so important. Because once you get the ethic in place, it's just time, it's about forming good habits, and we can translate this to anything in life that we do. Yes. But if you put £200 a month away and it just happens to go into a pension or an ISA, it might hurt a bit to start that habit, but once it's happening, you forget about it. It's just part of your expenditure, and it doesn't hurt as much. And the good thing is, it's not going to the local pub or to the clothes shop round the corner. You get to open your statement once a year and go, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
It didn't just disappear, it's actually still there.
Yeah.
And it's grown a bit. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when it grows, that's good. That is definitely good. Well, how's it been with you? So have you, with over the past sort of decade, and has there been more products available? How's everything changed? I mean,
I think our toolbox, if you like, I would say develops, but there's not huge changes. Most financial advisors will have access to know that their clients need pensions, ISAs, unit trusts, different styles of product that offer different tax outcomes. But ultimately, the box of tricks is the same across the board. It's how they're used in combination with what the client has told you is important to them. Yeah. And that's, I think, where we kind of differentiate ourselves, because we do spend quite a bit of time trying to get to know our clients before we do anything.
That's important.
Because, and this is just my personal opinion, if I don't know my client and what they're about and what makes them tick, and where they attribute value, the relationship's never going to be as good as I think it should be, and their end journey we might not get there. And my job is about delivering the right outcomes, and I don't want to fail in that because it's important.
Yeah.
Someone wants to retire on X amount of money, or they want to buy that boat at that sort of time, or they want to put their kids through private school. There's a myriad of ways that people can save to do those things. And I'm not saying my way or the highway, but there are different things that are appropriate for different people, different risk appetites. You might want to invest in tax products that gives you better tax incentives, but there's a high degree of risk in doing that. Well, that will be appropriate for one person but not another.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of products, there are some financial advisors that just won't advise in certain things, because at the end of the day, we all have to have something called private indemnity insurance about the risk of what we recommend people. Yeah. And we can do everything, and when it's appropriate, we do everything. But there are some advisors that can't do it all, and they won't do it all because they either don't understand the products or they just don't feel comfortable recommending in that space.
That's the benefit as well with you, like you said, 25 years. Have you always been in Tunbridge Wells for all that time?
No, I was in Western for a bit. I was in London for a bit, but I'm sort of, I only live 12 miles away from Tunbridge Wells, so my aim was local office. We've got an office in London, but with the world of Zoom these days,
the world of Zoom, exactly.
I mean, I'm eager to get out to see people face to face, because Zoom has its advantages, but there's nothing like just sitting in front of people and talking. Oh,
definitely not. And how did you find? How have you found things the last couple of years for the business?
The interesting thing about our business, I believe, if you've been in it long enough, you've got clients and you've been looking after them correctly, is the world can be looking in a great place, or the world could be looking in a really quite horrible place, and COVID certainly was a shock to the system and has showed us a life that none of us have ever seen before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so whilst it was a concern to start with, in good times and bad, people still need financial planning. Yeah. They need advice. Yeah. The market's going to hell and high water. What do I do?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had clients phone me up saying, I need to put all my investments into cash. It's the worst thing you can possibly do, because no one knows where they're getting the top of the market, and no one knows where the bottom is. So it's very easy to get out when you think it's at the top, but it's even more difficult from a mental point of view to get back in, because if you look at what happened in COVID, the market was dropping, probably came off 25-30% in places. Well, someone might have got to the point where they'd lost 10% and thought, I need to get out here, and then it went further, and trying to second guess where you think the bottom is, and no one is that rational either. So I think I had one client that basically pulled out of the market. He's a very smart gentleman. He's probably one of my top clients.
Yeah.
Pulled out at the top. I think I phoned him against my advice. I think I phoned him around May time, which was we'd just come out the bottom, so things had started to sort of pop back up again a little bit. And he wouldn't go back in, and I think he's lost about 40% on that.
Goodness
on
me.
making that decision. Well, he's only just gone back in, which is crazy. But he was happy with his decision. The most important thing for me, he was happy about where he was. He could sleep at night, and so we can all look at that and go, well, that was a silly thing to do. But actually, the client was happy. So if he's happy, then I'm happy. Wasn't the best decision from a returns point of view, but going back to client outcomes and what's most important and what does a client value? Well, he valued security and not having to worry. And so that was his decision. So for him, that was the right decision. Yeah.
So you must have to be quite pragmatic about things, because I'm very emotional. I think I'd get really I just get so attached.
Well, you do get attached to clients because they're clients for a long period of time.
Yeah, of course.
I've been looking after people for 25 years.
Yeah.
And they become more than clients. They're relationships. They're almost like family. And so when you've had a relationship with someone for a long period of time, you can actually talk to them a little bit differently than you would normally if you'd only just met them. And it's part of them getting to know you and us getting to know them. Yeah. So I can be a little bit frank if I need to be. Yeah. But that's what you're paying me for. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If I didn't tell you what I thought, what's the point? You'd do it yourself, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, I mean that's definitely it. You need someone to be frank with you and direct, don't you? I'm sure.
It's part of my role. Now, there are ways and means of doing that. Obviously, you have to be a little bit sensitive in certain situations, but it's fine for a client to disagree with their financial advisor, because guess what? Sometimes we don't get it right either.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's fine, but that's why it's a relationship. Yeah. It's a relationship that we invest in mutually. And if both sort of sides of the table come to the party in terms of, well, what are we trying to achieve? Then, you tend to end up getting where you want to go.
Yeah, I like the sound of that, because I think it's sometimes people probably do need a little bit. Well, it's support, isn't it? It's someone saying to you, "Come on, look, this is probably a good idea for you to do that," and it might not be immediate. They need a bit of nurturing on that, and it sounds like you do that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's, okay, what do you want me to be? Do you want me to be the accountability stick?
Yeah,
where I sort of whack you down the lane, or how do you want the relationship to work? Because ultimately, we can deliver what you want us to deliver. And sometimes life dictates that some of those things don't happen because things get in the way.
Of course.
Life throws you curveballs. We know that.
Yeah.
But that's why plans have to be flexible enough to navigate those situations.
Absolutely. And what would you say? I mean, has there been any point in your 25-year career that you've thought, this is not for me? Are you allowed to say that?
Not really, because I love it. I genuinely love what I do. I like the planning. I like meeting the people. We have challenges every day. Every day is different, and it's interesting. The products are really the same. Yeah. But how you apply them and what you do for that person and how it works for those individuals is different.
And when you say challenging, what would you say is the most challenging thing about your job?
When someone says, I've only got this amount of money, but I want that income, and well, that's not going to happen, is it? So hold on, I'll pull another rabbit out of the hat. You have those challenging. I think challenging is when you have to let people down and say, well, actually, what you're asking for is not realistic, and you have to be realistic. So that's where some of the challenges are. Putting together a piece of planning for the same guy I was talking about earlier on. He's come to me and said, right, actually I'm ready to do this, that and the other now, and what's the plan? So brilliant. I can there's a lot of things to do for him. There's inheritance tax planning, there's investment planning, there's structuring, income planning, stuff for his kids. The what ifs. If I die, what happens? Where does it go? We need to carry on delivering once I'm gone. Now that's going to take us a while to put together, but it's really interesting and exciting, and I love all that sort of stuff. Equally, I love onboarding the younger generation and teaching them the ways, and they're describing the journey that they actually can't see yet.
Yeah.
That's difficult because someone new to me or us is, I'm saying, if you do this, this is going to happen. Well, they can't see that yet.
No. They
have to trust me that something's positive is going to happen as a result of them taking the action that I'm recommending, and that's actually quite challenging. I mean, we started using financial software now.
Yeah.
That actually helps us visually map that out, so it makes it actually a lot easier for people to see. Well, actually, if I do that, that's what happens in the future, and it I can see where that's going.
Oh, that's good.
So that's a new addition to what we're doing within the business, because it's helping bring to life the boring numbers on the piece of paper. And
that must be very different to that must be a significant change, the technology, the way that's helping.
Yeah, I think it is.
Every industry.
And the financial services industry is riddled with issues, because all the financial services companies are different. You get different advisory firms who run different back office systems, so you can't really get one company that comes into the market and says, I've got this amazing software and everything talks to one another, because everybody uses different stuff.
Yeah.
So, we have to think carefully when we're investing in technology to go, well, is it going to add value, or how much duplication we've got going on here from a back office point of view, the boring running the office bit. But, the software that we have actually talks to all the things that we need it to talk to. So I'm happy.
And so you've got a big client base, but you're always looking for new clients.
Always looking for new clients. Because we have a big team that helps us look after people. We're employing at the moment, so we're looking for more admin staff. We're probably going to bring on another advisor this year at some point, because it can't just be me doing the doing.
It can't be you just doing the doing. You can't do everything.
Can't do everything. No, but we've got an expanding client base, and sometimes different characters will work better with different people.
Absolutely.
Just like life.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people want to find out more about you, is the best place for them to go to the website?
Go to the website, www.forbesfinancial.co.uk.
Yeah.
You can get us there. We're on LinkedIn, so you can, look us up there, or, pick up the phone.
And what would be your best bit of financial nugget advice for anyone listening?
Anyone listening, if you're thinking about doing something, stop thinking about it and get on with it. Procrastination is I come across it a lot, and people do a lot of thinking. If you're thinking it's kind of in your gut, then it's probably the right thing for you to do.
That's good advice.
Do that. We've got the end of the tax year coming up.
Yeah.
37 days away, is it? I think something like that. 5th of April. So ISAs and pensions, if you don't use your ISA allowance, you use it. Even if you're putting it in a cash ISA, just get it in. If you're worried about markets, it doesn't really matter, but just use that ISA allowance, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Right, we definitely need to have another chat. We definitely need to have another chat sooner rather than later.
And I think from a general planning point of view, people, I come across lots of people that have done planning in the past, or they've had a financial advisor a while ago and maybe have lost touch, or they've got one but maybe don't have the relationship that they perhaps feel they need, and they have lots of what I call products. So someone will say, I've got an ISA, got a pension, brilliant, that's good.
Yeah.
Why have you got one of those then? Oh, don't know. Well, what's it doing for you? No idea.
Yeah.
What's it going to give you at retirement? Don't know. So someone hasn't done the job there, have they?
Absolutely.
If the client doesn't really know where they're going or why they've got stuff, that's kind of where we tend to come in and help people make sense of the existing things that they've got.
Yeah.
Then we give it some shape and some colour, and we make it, help them understand what it means in terms of the value that it's going to give them, and align it to what they say is important.
I love that. Brilliant. Well, I mean, I'm sold, so that's that. But I mean, thank you so much for coming to talk to us about it today. And like you mentioned, people have still got some time, haven't they?
They've got lots of time, but what you've got to bear in mind is admin centres are
Not
busy.
that much, a month, 5 weeks.
Admin centres are busy. Your financial advisors will be busy.
Yeah.
The banking system's busy. Please don't leave it to the last minute.
No.
If you're thinking about it, just do something. Cash ISA is the best home if you don't know what you want to do in terms of investment, and then you've got time to speak to a financial advisor because they can transfer your cash ISA somewhere else where it's going to do more good. But at least you're buying yourself time to make the right decisions in terms of investments. But cash ISAs, investment ISAs, or pick up the phone to us and we'll get it done.
Pick up the phone and have a chat with Matthew. That's
Absolutely,
what I say.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been lovely to talk to you today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on, and we look forward to hearing more from you, I'm sure
you will.
over time. You're
Exactly.
certainly a character, and it's been lovely to meet you. So thank you, Matthew.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.